Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Great Connect podcast, where we help you navigate this modern chaotic world with some holistic practices and trying our absolute best to be our best selves as we navigate. Today, I am really excited to be joined by Lee Cotton, a registered dietitian and holistic health champion for all things you and your being your best self. So today we're going to dive into how do we navigate this intense season of holidays, food, all the beautiful chaos that happens as we navigate the end of the year and figure out how we can do it being our best selves, enjoying our time together, as well as staying true to what feels best for our bodies. So, Lee, welcome to the Great Connect podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Carrie, thank you. Happy holidays.
Oh, thank you. Happy holidays to you too. Wow, I can't even. Yes, that's where we are. It's November, it's December. What has happened? I know it happens so fast. I feel this year in particular feels like it has been a bit of a speed race, but here we are closing out this chapter of 2025. So I have had the privilege and honor to be able to get a sneak peek at your forthcoming book, and I'm really excited to share some of the tidbits that I really enjoyed from that book as we kind of talk about how do we navigate this season, because your book really talks about our relationship with food. And as I think about moving into this season and all the joy that comes with it, with gathering with others, the celebratory fact of food, I also think about, oh, I'm really going to be tested because I know what feels good in my body, but I'm going to be tempted. I'm going to be joyful. What is your first kind of reaction to when I'm thinking about moving into this season? How do I stay true and enjoy at the same time?
Well, I think it's important when we look at our relationship with food as the 365 day a year relationship. The holidays are amazing. Their tradition, their celebration, their sweetness, their family gatherings. And
Yeah.
if we look at the core foundation of our relationship with food, it usually starts at the table with a celebration, such as a
Yeah.
birthday party, a holiday, Thanksgiving. I mean, food is the foundation of our culture. So when we enter into the holiday season, I think it's really important to be curious about how we feel about it, but
Yeah.
also be acceptance and the joy of eating, because that's what holidays are all about. It's being joyful. And,
Right.
it's also finding that balance that you're honoring your body with nourishment, but you're also doing self-care practice. So
Yeah.
it's a holistic approach, which, you believe in, the mind, body, spirit. So it's not only what you eat, it's how you approach your food and your relationship with food.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit when you say, our mind, body, spirit approach and relationship with food. Like unpack that a little bit for me because, as I think about the dynamic and the experience of food, oftentimes I get right into good for me, not good for me as like a binary experience with food. So take me into this trifecta of mind, body.
Sure. I mean, it's quite interesting if you think about it, our relationship with food and how it has begun. Whether it's relationships with our family and the food noise that we had as a child. I mean, I grew up in like the Clean Your Plate Club, right? So
Hmm.
that was something that was kind of just like ingrained in my body. And I still find myself every once in a while, like noticing that little food noise comes up in my head, and I have to like silent it and just like get back into my own food voice that I've cultivated over years of my own personal work, just both personally and professionally, to cultivate a better relationship with food. So I think that it's completely natural that we enter into any meal, especially as a female, with this food noise. I mean, we're
Yeah.
programmed by our society. We live in a very diet-centric culture. There's historical, remarkable historical information showing how we've kind of programmed ourselves to have this relationship with food. And I talk a little bit about that in my book.
Yeah.
There's just so much. And then you go into like the holidays and we have these dynamics with our families. So it's just so interesting how this all kind of plays into how we kind of even prepare our plate at a holiday meal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, right? I was mentioning to you before the call that that was my favorite part in your book was seeing the diet culture laid out by decade and all the different fads and trends that we've moved through and how, wow, I could really see each of those stories coming through in my approach to food. I was also in the Clean Plate Club, right? Like, starving children in China was often the phrase said at the table, like you have to finish your food, right? Which creates this sense of guilt and anxiety of I'm deserving other people, which is quite the I'm trying to use a gentle word that's the word I want to use.
I think, Carrie, I think like you really, I mean, that is it. That is guilt. So
Yes.
many people approach their meals or after their meals with that feeling of guilt. And you mentioned something earlier, which I thought was so important, is approaching a meal, whether food is good or bad, right? Food is a neutral thing. Food
Yeah.
is nourishment. We need it to survive. Food tastes good. I mean, the holidays would not be so special if we weren't looking forward to some of our holiday favorite dishes. I can speak to myself. I'm sure you have favorite holiday dishes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's those things that we have like once a year. This is the only time I get that like nostalgia
Mhm.
dopamine spike, right? Like, yeah. I love
What are
that.
your favorite holiday dishes out of curiosity?
Oh my God. You're gonna cringe when I tell you this one. And I don't really get I don't really get to eat it anymore. But we always had the green bean casserole was always that was my jam. Like I would eat that. And then one of my aunts always made a Jello salad or a Jello
Okay.
the whipped cream in the middle. Those were my two. Like those were the ones Carrie got the leftovers for and took back to college, etc. Those were my favorites.
Love that. But see, that's how you enter into the holidays, like with that feelings and the looking forward to those special meals, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was always okay, let's make sure we have to make this for Carrie, we have to make this for my brother, this for my cousin, right? So it was a very much like a holiday experience where everybody was included in creating the meal. That usually meant that we didn't deviate very often because everybody wanted their thing, right?
But that's important. Like, food is tradition and food is like part of our own internal culture, whether it's with our family or our heritage. So when
Yeah.
we bring that to the table, it's a very, beautiful thing. And if we embrace it rather
Yes.
than looking at it with guilt or shame, it just becomes so much better.
Yeah, right. You can hear me say like I don't get to have it anymore because it's like it was the soup out of the jar or the can, the green beans out of the can. Like I don't necessarily want to consume it that way anymore, but at the same time, like it's okay to have that meal and enjoy it for what it is rather than dissect it.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, yeah. With that end, right? Like as we think about coming into food and this kind of mind, body, soul experience of moving through the holidays, those traditions may evoke positive memories, but how do we also navigate that the holidays perhaps evoke those challenging or those negative experiences of, okay, this is going to come up and I don't operate this way anymore, but there's been this tradition and that tradition is actually poking me rather than lighting me up.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that that happens a lot with people. And I think the first thing in anything in life is just being curious with those feelings, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
sitting with them and being curious. And, especially like with some of my clients who are, working in recovery, whether it's with their eating disorder or just disordered eating component, I always tell them to go into the holidays prepared, have your care team ready, have a trusted friend, make sure that you still continue with your self-care, whether it's your meditations or your time to yourself, make sure you're getting adequate rest. And I
Mhm.
think, I can speak as a woman. I feel like, we have this vision in our minds that the holidays are going to be this like hallmark holiday and everything's going to be so perfect. And we want the meals to be perfect and the tree to be perfect. And I feel like Pinterest completely like
Oh.
destroyed our whole entire mindset when it comes to holidays. But just like going into it and knowing, nothing's perfect in life. There's
Mhm.
ebbs and flows.
Oh,
Everybody has family dynamics.
Yeah.
And just embracing it. But I think most importantly is really just carving out that time for self-care and
Yeah.
not getting wrapped up in the needs of everybody else, because at the end of the day, you really have to take care of yourself first in order to take care of anybody else. And also to even host or be a party planner or to have a good celebration, right? You have to be in a good place. Just like
Yeah.
they said, like, put your oxygen mask on first.
Yes.
So I think
Yeah.
that that's something that we can do throughout the year,
Yeah. Yeah.
and making sure that you are getting that because it can be very triggering family
Mm.
dynamics. And then also another thing too is you get out of your routine, right?
Yes. Yes.
People travel.
Yes.
You're away from maybe your home or your comfort zone. You're away from like maybe your work or your colleagues that you're used to being with every single day. You might be
Mhm.
out of like your routine, your walking routine, or any type of self-care. So I think it's really just zeroing in. And in order to provide presence for other people, you have to be present with yourself. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah. No, you're so right, right? And that's such an important articulation of what also happens at the holidays that sometimes we skip over, which is the routine and the habitualness of our lives and how easy some of the things
Mhm.
can be when we're in that routine. And when you shift that, either by traveling or having visitors or just even hosting a meal and that intense spike that happens, what would be your like tip for? Is there a way to navigate that to try and keep some level of consistency? What would you suggest to people that are doing more traveling or hosting at that point?
I tell especially like my clients, when we're looking about cultivating a better relationship with food, that for me it's really important that they still can stay consistent with their meals.
Hmm.
I see a lot of people that they'll save up for that big holiday meal, which is a big no-no in my books. Making sure that they're fueling your body throughout the day because food is energy.
Yeah.
And when your energy levels are depleted, you get run down, your emotions aren't as stable as they might be when you are having those triggering
Yes.
holiday moments. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest takeaway is just carving out that time, to make sure that you're nourishing your body and then
Mm.
also finding that you're also nourishing your mind, whether that's even taking a moment and having an affirmation or journaling or just going outside and getting a little sunshine, just
Yeah.
something for yourself
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
keep some type of consistency with self-care.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna be that person, right?
Yep.
And I'm traveling to my in-laws for the holidays, and that means that I'm going to choose to have my breakfast routine no matter what, right? Maybe that's my thing.
Mhm.
Do I bring it? How do I overcome that, like, ooh, yeah, of like, this is good for me, but I'm also going to stand out from the crowd and be that person? We'll go into a couple of other that person
No,
things.
you're
How do we navigate
fine.
that?
First of all, I think you should just not consider yourself that person. We're all allowed to have choices.
Yeah,
We're
right?
allowed to have choices. I mean, are you that person if you chose to wear like a red sweater? No, that's just something you picked out of your closet. So I
Yeah,
think that, we just, again, we approach every meal thinking that there's so much guilt or shame and there's all this like food culture and food language and food opinions. I would just approach the meal and say, this is something I really love for breakfast. And if anybody would like some, I'll be more than happy to prepare it for you. And this is the reason why I like it. And, just
yeah.
be positive about it. You're allowed to have your own opinion, especially when it comes to nourishing your body.
Yeah, right. It's such an interesting paradox that like you're making these choices and these are good for you, and there's like this societal conditioning, right, which we kind of alluded to before of like this diet culture over all this time and all this marketing and all this like consumerism that's told us we have to do it a certain way, and now it feels like I'm kind of rubbing the system and
Mhm.
having to stand out when it's like, no, I'm just so just maybe even it's a couple of days in advance of I can have whatever like saying it like I can have whatever breakfast I want. I can be different and still be loved, right? I
Yeah,
loved that in your book there was affirmations at the end, right? Like
about affirmation. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I think that that's a really powerful tool to psych ourselves up for those moments where we may feel like we may stand out a little bit.
And
Mhm.
it's even interesting with when you're saying that, because when it comes to even being like, if somebody has children and I always say like, get kids curious in the kitchen, like make them a part of it and allow them to have their opinions with what they like or don't like.
Yeah.
Even what you
Yeah.
just mentioned, I mean, we do have a lot of pressure in society, and I think a lot of our things that we possibly may like as food, we might not like, but society likes.
Yes.
So, so I think it's again, I think the curiosity when it comes to anything with eating is so important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to go into an even spicier because this is something I've personally been navigating as well, right? So, one, I'd love to talk a little bit more like physical from like what might happen when we make some of these choices. We can absolutely make all these choices, but also recognizing like how that may impact our mood, our ability to cope, even on the conclusion, right? If we have an evening dinner and then the next day I made these food decisions, how might that impact my next day? Just so that we have awareness, right? It isn't to me that it's a good or bad, but how can we understand? So if I'm at the table and what foods am I thinking about might have impact on me the next day from a mood perspective?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, one of the biggest takeaways from that question is that food definitely can affect our mood. So if we think about what food is or what a calorie is energy.
Yeah.
So if you're not consuming adequate energy, you're going to feel a little down, right?
Yeah.
If you're not properly hydrated, you might feel a little effective.
Yeah.
Nutrients, vitamins, minerals, they all affect the way that we feel. So if you're sitting at a holiday meal, I always say try to get like a variety of foods on your plate. Try to get different nutrients, just again, because we always want to look at a balanced meal. So when I
Mhm.
look at balanced meal, what does that look like to me? It's variety, it's adequacy, it's nutrient dense, but also it's that enjoyment factor.
Yeah.
Because just as your plate might not be balanced, you might approach the food with guilt or shame and not enjoy it. And that's going to also affect your mood, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just, what we're putting in our body, but it's also the thoughts centered around food.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
food does. It's so amazing how powerful food can be. I mean, think about somebody who has a peanut allergy. They can eat that food and it could be devastating for that person. And that's such a great example of how powerful food is for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're so, so right, right?
Yeah.
Um, I know this comes from some of the blue zone as well, is that actually when we sit at a table with others, our body actually absorbs more nutrients because of the community at the table, right? And so I like to think of that as a way to remove some of that shame and guilt in a way that's like, no, but my body is doing good things by being here. I just have to be here, right? And that's good for me.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. It's so important to spend time or have family meal time and just sit and enjoy your food because a couple of things. First of all, you're going to be a little bit more slow with your eating and you're going
Hmm.
to enjoy the food and you're
Yeah.
going to take the time rather than rushing through it. I'm really big on like mindfulness when we eat and really just sitting and just savoring the taste and, tasting the textures and just being aware of like every single bite. And
Yeah.
again, like going back to the way our society is, many people eat in front of their computer. Many people multitask and they're like on Instagram and they're like, taking
Yeah.
pictures of what they're eating rather than sitting there enjoying what they're eating. So, I do feel that it's so important to sit at a family meal and just be there. And the holidays are such a great time to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's one of those moments where you can actually go into it and then think, wow, I miss this. And how do I cultivate more of this in my life 365, as you were saying, right? Like this relationship is all year round. This just may be a moment where we're being tested around a couple of those things that new skills, right? Sometimes as you're transitioning your relationship with food, you're developing new skills. Do you see it that way?
Oh my gosh, yes, without like a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
It is skills. It's like anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, um, baby learns to crawl and to walk and then run, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything takes time and skills. And, there are many people that don't have a great relationship with food. And, it's it's full faceted of how it happens, because there's a multi layers of reasons why this might occur. So
Yeah.
again, it's just like every single meal approaching it
Yeah.
as a new beginning and a new start, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the other components that I really enjoyed as I was reading through the book is thinking about the mind, body, and soul, or the emotional, the spiritual, the physical elements of food, and that cultivating all those different skills, it's a complex place to start. If somebody is kind of new and having this awareness as they're heading into the holidays, where would you tell them to be curious? Like, what are some prompts that you would offer to somebody as they're kind of maybe just recognizing
Yeah.
the experience that they're having with food?
I think that the first thing is not necessarily a prompt, but it's just a way, it's like self-compassion first and foremost. I
Yeah,
think that that's
yeah,
important. I
yeah.
think also too, just approaching every meal. And I think it is important to touch in with your hunger cues and just, start paying attention to what hungry feels like. Because
Mm,
hunger can, manifest in the body in so many different ways. It can be a physical hunger, it can be emotional hunger. So I think
mhm.
that that's important of just really being like intuitive in that nature.
Oh, I love that. Tell me more about how hunger manifests because that feels cool to me.
Sure, of course. So I think, and going back again, I hate to keep harping on society, but it's kind of hard not to like kind of be
We
curious.
live in it. We know it's there.
Have to be curious about how this has shaped our relationship with food.
Yes.
But I think as women, like hunger is a feeling that we've kind of been shamed to feel.
Yeah.
So, I think that really understanding that, being hungry is an important feeling. Just as if we had to use the ladies' room, we don't ignore it, we honor it, and we go to the bathroom, right? That's
Yeah.
our body's innate ability to kind of protect ourselves. So, thinking about that, whether it's a physical cue or, sometimes we do have emotional cues, and it could be happy. At a
Yeah.
birthday party, you're happy and you want to have a piece of birthday cake, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think it's just, again, being so curious with your body and just really avoiding the shame or the guilt and just
Yeah.
embracing and thinking of it and like reframing it and thinking, hey, this is really cool that my body talks to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's really fascinating to me as you said that about the birthday cake, right? Because it's opening, it's enlightening to me from a yes, we could constantly just blame the society or the collective or all the consumerism or whatever that is. And at the same time, it's there and it's true. And it's just the awareness of whether that's a family member, a magazine, or a TV show. These are just all influences in our life. And the more we are centered in what's true for us. But what you're saying that's feeling really enlightening for me is recognizing that I've kind of adopted I guess, the mentality that I should only eat when my stomach tells me I should eat, not when my emotions tell me I should eat, right? And there's a slippery slope there
There
too.
is a slippery slope, but I think that that's something that's hard to kind of explain. But the
Yeah,
emotions, I think when people think of maybe like eating out of emotion, they automatically go to like sadness, feelings of remorse. And it's like, no, think about like every holiday and think about Halloween. I'll just use this as an example. The
yeah,
candy corn. I mean, that's something that's enjoyed for some people. Some people think
yeah,
it tastes like a candle,
yeah.
but again, it's just that excitement. It's an
Yeah,
excitement, right? Oh, this is a holiday. And you were saying like, the Jello or the green bean casserole. I mean, your eyes lit up when you were telling me about that. And I could feel that that is an exciting time for you.
yeah,
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 it can be
yeah,
enjoyment. And
yeah.
it's interesting that you were mentioning like the influencers because I feel like we're again, we have all these people influencing our decisions where we should be the biggest influencers for ourselves.
Yes, yes, we've quieted that voice and allowed all the others to be louder when we have as much of a loud, a bullhorn as anybody else. We should, right? Yeah, I really like that. And I think thinking about the emotional, what's coming up for me is the connection between the emotional and the physical, and making sure that you're not betraying the physical for the emotional or the emotional for the physical, right? And so again, it all comes down to the balance, and that's our greatest skill development is balancing, actually, not balance, because there's no state of achievement there, but I like that because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about, stuffing my face with pies and that can be a joyful, like, I love pumpkin pie and it's kind of the only time of year that I get to have pumpkin pie. And so yes, I can eat it because of the emotional happiness. And I just need to check in with my body and make sure that I'm not ignoring the sensations from my physical body about how much of the pumpkin pie I should enjoy. That feels really true. Yeah.
Yeah. Important just again, like taking the time to eat and just savoring it,
Yeah.
pushing
Yeah.
in with your body's cues throughout when you eat. And that's a practice like to use throughout the year.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
another thing too, which is interesting, I know we all have like our special holiday foods that we treasure one time a year, but I also say, sometimes just knowing that we can have those holiday foods whenever we want.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. We don't have to starve ourselves the other 300 days of the year just to be able to have the things that we want. Just like you were saying around saving up for the meal that we're having today, extending that to the year as well.
Yeah.
That
I never want people to have an inadequate intake, that's for sure.
yeah.
So, again, it's all about, fueling our bodies regularly,
Yeah.
which is important for sustained energy. I mean, for mental clarity, even
Yeah.
for emotional health that we talked about earlier, like the food and the mood.
Yes. 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 Okay. I love that. That's a really beautiful portion of the navigating this entire holiday experience from a food perspective is also reminding yourself, yes, we can indulge because in this moment or not indulge, right? But we can enjoy this experience and does it offer us an opportunity to say, oh my gosh, I miss pumpkin pie. Would I like to have this in January or February too? That is really cool. Yeah.
Pie has lots of good beta carotene and a lot of good nutrients.
I know. I love the pumpkin. Pumpkin is my jam. I'm one of those.
Mhm.
I do a pumpkin muffin for my kids. That's pretty much just
Oh,
pumpkin, and then it has some super dark chocolate chips.
yeah.
Yeah,
Pumpkin and chocolate chips. That's a dream.
yeah. It's really I love them, and it's just my favorite in the fall to make and my son loves them, and he helps make them with me, and so yeah, it's pumpkin maple syrup flour and dark chocolate chips. So,
I
yeah.
love that. And I loved how you mentioned that you do it with your children.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I think that's important too. Getting
Yeah.
your kids involved in the kitchen. And then also too, that how you mentioned, which is an interesting topic, is, pumpkin is comes around in fall because it's a seasonal item.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too, like when you look at food and like the seasons and how, the seasons kind of show change and how, we evolve. So, there's a lot of interesting tidbits in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, because, it is fun to think about how we can extend and make sure that we're nourishing ourselves in that joyful nourishment throughout the course of the year. And how do I then live seasonally if I want pumpkin pie all year round?
No, it's absolutely true. But I think it's, just knowing that you can have it if you want it and then honoring that. And like, I really feel like, looking at that all foods
Yeah.
are allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think about it as, is that actually an opportunity to say, here's the food that leaning further into the seasonality and say, okay, how do I find pumpkin for me in every season that I'm looking forward to so that when pumpkin is on the out, asparagus is on the in, right? Because I also love asparagus or my aunt was really big in the rhubarb. Like that was her big thing, right? So, talk a little bit about seasonality and how do we embrace that versus keep our habitual routines? Like, how do we marry those two together?
Without a doubt. I think that that was so interesting how you said like having the pumpkin throughout the year and finding that joy. And that's it. It's
Yeah,
again taking those every season, every day, and finding the joy of eating.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
really what it is about, is just approaching every meal with, delight and
Hmm.
gratitude. And
Hmm.
really looking at it as such a nourishing moment, not only for our bodies, but for, cultivating, our relationships with who's sitting at our dinner table
Yes.
or
Yeah.
spending time socially or celebration. So it's really that joy.
Yeah. Yeah. What thoughts do you have for those that are trying to keep themselves on this new path of I'm trying to eat healthier. Yes, I can, but honestly, I know myself well enough to know if I let myself slip off, it's going to be really hard for me to get back on track. Like, how do I step into this moment, trying to balance not being too rigid with myself, but at the same time knowing myself well enough that I can't go down that path because I'm gonna regret it after the fact, right? And how do we balance those two things together?
Sure, no, that's a good question. And I think like a lot of people do like have those feelings.
Yeah,
So I feel that first of all, no holiday meal is going to completely take you off your journey of wellness. I mean, that's first and foremost.
yeah,
I think again, going back to more of the emotional component, that guilt and shame is far worse.
yeah,
So just knowing that, tomorrow you can get back to whether it's your self-care, whether it's yoga or walking, and just enjoying the meal.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think if you approach
yeah,
holidays with a gratitude, thought
yeah, yeah,
and are open and approach again, like we keep going back to, is like the joyfulness of the meals and not going through and knowing that stay with your self-care. If you
mhm,
are on a wellness journey and that might look like something for somebody that, let's just say they walk every morning, well, then try to walk every morning because you probably are doing it more because it gives you grounding and it helps you, your mindfulness. So
yeah,
keeping up those daily tasks that bring you joy.
yeah,
If again,
yeah,
you get completely out of your schedule,
yeah.
the holiday meal might be more heightened when it's really just a multitude of reasons.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Okay, so as we're navigating the plethora of gatherings, joyful moments, etc., are there things that I can incorporate into my holiday routine that are going to help me with the digestion um, if I am going in balanced, etc., and I still want to feel my best? Are there other things I can actually bring in this season that are going to help me process or my physical body process that food too?
That's a really good question. So, when it comes to medical nutritional therapy, like everybody's different.
Yeah,
So, for one person, it might look different for another person.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I always like to say that. So, I'm just giving general tips because if somebody, let's just say, would have a digestive issue, um what they might need to eat is going to be completely different for somebody who doesn't have, let's just say, a digestive issue.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
first and foremost, adequate hydration. A lot of people travel during the holidays or on planes. I'm going to say
Yes.
this movie Plane Trains Automobiles. That's like a movie from a long time ago, but everybody's, they're traveling, so they get dehydrated, and dehydration can totally affect our digestive system. Another thing too is, we're around a lot of people. There's a lot of germs and new places. So I think that when we look at fueling our body, we're always going to consider incorporating nutrient dense foods, foods that are high in vitamins and minerals, antioxidant rich foods. I'm a big fan of making sure that not only your whole body is, balanced, but also your gut is balanced. So even considering maybe adding some like probiotic rich foods into your regimen, just making sure that you're fueling yourself. I always say add some color to your plate. Color is so important. Typically, it's so interesting that the foods that are so vibrant in color are so high in nutrients. So it's so amazing again when we are like so curious and grateful for food that we are blessed to have these vibrant color foods that we're attracted to that also have so much nutrients. So
Yeah.
again, just really fueling your body well to keep your immune health good, your digestive good too, making sure that you're getting adequate fiber, water,
Yeah. Yeah.
rest, because rest can affect our digestion. And also, most importantly, stress can affect our digestion. So again, going back to this mindfulness, whether it's like meditation or yoga or whatever you might do, petting your dog if that gives you joy, just
Right.
something to make sure that you are balancing out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So for those that are like new to thinking about they need to hydrate themselves,
Okay.
Besides water, what else should we be considering from like a hydration perspective?
Again, it goes, I mean, this is such like a vague statement, but it goes to like, what do you like? I mean, some people might like, I really enjoy having water and I like to put some juice in it to dilute it. Some people are like, I like to have an electrolyte packet. Like some
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
everybody has like their thing that they enjoy. And again, certain things might not be good for one person than the other.
Absolutely. That bioindividuality is really important to cultivate. Like what is good for me, what makes me feel best in that moment. So,
Who has high blood pressure might not be able to have something maybe somebody else would for hydration. So
yeah.
it's just again, like really just knowing what your individual needs are.
Yeah, yeah. Are you a warm water with lemon fan?
It's so interesting. Like I change. I
Mm.
sometimes really want warm beverages. Sometimes
Yeah.
I really want cold beverages, and I kind of just go with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know about you, but sometimes I just love to have like tea, and then
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like, oh, I want a coffee in the
Yeah,
morning, and it just changes. So I
yeah.
just go with it,
Yeah, right.
right?
It's just listening. Like your body is very intelligent and it speaks to you what it's looking for, right? And it's just tuning into that to understand what it's asking for.
Right. I had
Yeah.
the opportunity years ago to study like some Ayurvedic nutrition with a really good, amazing person. And, again, it goes down to like our bodies are just so unique and we really just, what our bodies need and crave, sometimes we really have to look at what that might mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because sometimes I would love to hear your thoughts about kind of transitioning our palate, right? And so as you're in the midst of Um, perhaps I think about it as like, a lot of our foods, processed foods, et cetera, have a lot of additive things in it, but also sugar, and they're just sweeter. And as you're transitioning out of that, it just takes time, and then things will. Wait, I'm craving that, but that's not actually what my body wants. It wants this nutrient, right? And so, how am I helping myself transition in that period of time? To really listen to what it's asking for. And I was thinking about that as you were talking about ways hunger expresses, um, especially through hydration. I heard this very long time ago, and it's not certainly the answer to everything, but sometimes my body's saying I'm hungry because I'm actually thirsty rather than food, even though food can provide us water. I'd love to hear if that's true, if that's not true, or obviously for the individual too.
It's a really good question, actually. And it definitely can. I mean, dehydration can manifest in different ways for different people. And I
Yeah.
think, again, it's taking that pause and like just being reflective. Okay, have I had enough hydration today? Have I had
Yeah.
adequate intake today? Like what does my body really need? And
Yeah.
that takes time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we never really take that pause.
Yeah. No. But yeah, I mean, just starting to like cultivate that awareness that it's even speaking to you is the very first step. It always feels to me like I may not understand what it's saying, but it's saying something. Okay, yay, check. Like, let's celebrate that because that is a huge achievement in and of itself that you're finally listening, right? Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I love that. Okay, so I know what probiotic rich foods are. Can you share some examples of those?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Um, Yogurt,
Yeah.
kefir. There's a bunch of things. Some people like those kombucha drinks.
Yes. Oh, that's me.
Yeah. And I mean, they do carry like over the counter probiotic things. But again, you always have to talk to your doctor because, again, things can be contraindicated if you have a
Mhm.
medical condition or on any type of um, medicine. So it's always important to kind of, be curious with that too, with your provider. And
Yeah.
always to even talk to a dietitian. I mean, dietitians, I mean, this is what we go to school for. We do a lot of schooling. Shout
Yes.
out to all my dietitian people out there. Um, so, again, there's just like you go to an orthopedic doctor for like a bone issue, like we're the people that deal with the food issues. So it's
Yeah.
good to always be curious of that too. But, at the end of the day, having variety and balance on your plate is really important if we are going to be looking at gut health because your body does need certain nutrients, certain fiber in order to keep that homeostasis.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked in the book as you were breaking down even macronutrients, micronutrients, right? And something that touched me personally is like we all went to a health class in high school. And this is why you dietitians, so many people in this field of health and wellness are really stepping up to the plate and are here as great resources because we got a health class. That's it. To learn this whole complex being that we have. And we really need to cultivate a lot more learning and understanding about our own operating system.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And it's so interesting to me that we don't have those foundations. I mean, we have to eat every single day. It's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So we don't have any of that knowledge. And unfortunately now, a lot of the information that we're getting, is not from like credentialed professionals, and
Yeah.
it's very confusing. And,
Yeah.
I don't know how you would really know how to eat in
Yeah.
in this world without
Right.
some certain foundational skills. So that's why, like it was important for me in my book to put that chapter in there just to give some basic foundations. Okay, like let's just break this down and make it so simple of like really like what it looks like to have
Yeah.
intake. But again, it goes back to that we're all different.
Hmm.
What we need. I mean, our age, I spoke about this too, like different age brackets of our life, our nutrients change. Different
Yes.
times of our life, our nutrients change.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I personally love that because I really fully believe that we don't spend enough time going back to the basics because we make an assumption that people did learn that. And I think at the end of the day, most of us, I'm going to generalize, but I think a lot of people are speaking about things, throwing around the word macros, right? And I'm like, I heard people talking about this, and that's just not I don't live in that particular world where I'm embracing that in that way. And so people are like, "Oh, are you counting your macros and da da da?" I'm like, I actually have no idea what they're talking about. And then when I read your book and I was like, "Oh, macronutrients. Oh, that must be what they're talking about." I'm like, I just assumed it was something that I was not that was kind of unique to that, right? And then it like clicked for me in this really dumb way of like, "Oh, right. Macro and micronutrients." Like, but we throw around these like generalized terms without really understanding the building blocks and how they're building blocks, right? Like
yeah,
if you stack and you don't have another pillar over here, eventually the stack is going to fall over.
it's a really good way to say that.
Yeah, yeah. So I really appreciated that you kind of took it down to that level in the book because it's really, I think we have to. I think we really do. And I think, talking about this from a family meal every week and or at the holidays is start can be so simple of just like make your plate colorful and like what does balance look like? And you can just start with as simple as like, how many colors can I get on the plate today? Yeah, I love that. Unfortunately, my like the Jello was the colorful item on the table. So if we're at a meal where it's monotone or monochromatic, how do we help find color in potentially a more beige season or a beige table?
For sure. Well, first and foremost, we're always able to bring something, which is
Yes.
nice, right?
Yeah.
And again, taking it, it might be a beige table per se, but I can tell you, depending upon what's on that array of food, there's probably some good nutrients in that beige table too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So most
Yeah.
foods do have great nutrients in them.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it's just okay, make sure you take a little bit of each of them rather than a big scoop of one of them. But if that's your holiday favorite, go for it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the next day, you can add a little color to your
Yeah.
meal.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So let's touch on one. If you are bringing something to your
Okay.
holiday table, what are you bringing to your holiday table?
Oh, goodness gracious. Are we talking about like which holiday? Because I think that will help me kind of like pin it down.
Great question. Let's do like the Christmas, New Year, or that season. Yeah.
Great. So I actually love to make like a stuffing, but I make it like unique to my own needs. And I have some dietary restrictions just based upon some allergies, but I make it different for me, but I add a lot of really great, like nutrient dense ingredients. I love adding like butternut squash and cranberries and pumpkin seeds. Um,
Ooh.
just a lot of interesting things because the butternut squash is great with beta carotene. The cranberries have a little vitamin C. The pumpkin has some zinc, which is great for immune health. Just add a bunch of nutrient dense ingredients. And you know what? It's just cozy and warm, and
Mhm.
it's just a very comforting dish.
Yeah, I love that. And also just the concept that, okay, stuffing may have always been presented this way, but I can actually still have stuffing and maybe like play with it a little bit and say, like, how do I want to create my own version? And to me, that's stepping more into like a creative food energy rather than like a healthy, like trying to make all the things like colorful or whatever that is, like that feels joyful. That feels like fun for the holidays.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
And also I have celiac disease. So like if I bring something like stuffing where I've made to fit my needs, it also introduces to the family that you can have foods that are very traditional that you can make, but you can also be mindful of somebody sitting at your table who might have something that they have to be aware of.
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of the beauty of these holiday tables often is people are bringing their favorite things. So play, have fun, bring the thing that lights you up because I think that's going to get other people interested in your food too, right? That kind of coming back to our original part of this conversation of like, you have a voice too, use it.
And
Yeah.
I do there's something really important to talk about during the holidays is like when you're a host or a hostess, being mindful of the people that are sitting at your table and being compassionate because people will come with certain, health issues or might be maybe in like recovery and just being compassionate and mindful of those sitting at your table.
Yeah, yeah, that's really important. And I think such a great hostess tip of right, you're bringing people together for a joyful experience, allow everybody to self-express, to say yes, to say no to certain things. That was one of the things that I was thinking about is I've just for my own health and wellness, I've stopped drinking alcohol because I don't feel good anymore. And that was a weird transition for me because it was something I did not anticipate at all. And I kind of come into this holiday season thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to like say no to the alcoholic beverage. And that feels spicy, but also like I've practiced enough times now that I feel pretty good, but I think sometimes that practice of saying yes and no to things can be really important. Do you
Oh,
have,
yeah.
yeah,
But remember that you're saying yes to your needs, which is so
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So you're saying no, but you're really saying yes to yourself.
Yes, yes, exactly, right? And do you have any suggestions or ideas? I love the affirmations in your book. Are there other either affirmations or tips to kind of do that practice to really feel good? Because it's going to bring up potentially a lot of emotions, depending upon whether that's the uncle that's criticized me my entire life or my new mother-in-law, right? Whoever those people are. How can I support myself so that I can feel good saying yes to me and no to what I'm being offered?
Well, I think like the most two powerful words that you could ever say to yourself is I am.
Yeah,
So just ending that with whatever that might be, like I am creating boundaries. I am taking care of my needs. I am
yeah,
strong.
yeah. I
I
am
am
so,
not going to allow this person to, you know, make me feel a certain way.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that, and think about that though, because I am is things people will do not in a positive way too, and they tell themselves these things constantly.
Oh, right, right. Absolutely. Especially as we move into this season and we have kind of potentially those dynamic tables that are less joyful and kind of bringing up all the things from our lives, that moment of, am I saying I am, and then taking their words and putting it for myself. Yeah, yeah.
And even with like, people that are honoring their bodies and maybe not turning to an alcoholic beverage during the holidays, there's other ways that they can make a festive holiday drink, whether it's like a mocktail or something just fun. And, I mean, putting like, I'm all about like putting like sparkling water in a wine glass and just making it festive and fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot more options out there these days, which just helps us kind of step into that. But I love that idea. And actually, I might think about that for myself, actually, of, ooh, what could I bring that would be a fun, festive mocktail? Because I'll end up at that situation where then I feel like I'm either in or I'm out with water, right? And then it just, I don't feel like I participate as much. And so I could bring something that allows me to participate in the fun, festive, even though it's in my own unique way.
Yeah, you
Do
can
you
do a
have
lot
a,
of fun things. Mhm.
yeah, do you have a go-to
Well,
mocktail?
I mean, it's really up to you, Carrie. Like, okay, tell me, like, what is your favorite? Are you like a sweet or a sour person?
Ooh, I'm way more of a sour. I'm like, I like ginger beer and anything,
Okay.
really.
Why don't you do your ginger kombucha in a wine glass?
Oh, good idea.
Right?
Yes, that's a great idea. I do really enjoy the kombuchas,
Mhm.
and that's a great idea. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fun how like the glass, like this is a season where all those like extras can just make it feel great.
I'm all about of like at any meal making like your plate and like your ambiance like nice. Because again, it's like that self-care ritual. Like I'm putting out a nice plate for myself and I'm honoring my body and nourishing my body and creating this atmosphere.
Yeah, lean
I-
into the festive.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think we save things too
Yeah.
often.
Right. Right.
So
Yes, like break
every
out.
day is like a festivity and a
Yeah.
time to embrace and be happy and grateful.
Yeah, yeah. The intentionality that we put behind the meal is just as important as the meal itself, I think, from a nutrition and a mindset perspective. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna do a little like festive fun lightning round. Okay, so eggnog or hot cocoa?
Okay, so I love hot cocoa.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
interesting. Eggnog, I will have like one sip for just me personally, and I'm just like, no. But like hot cocoa is lovely.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree. And hot
Yeah.
cocoa is like just, I don't know.
But again, hot cocoa in a memory. Like I love watching like Charlie Brown Christmas with hot cocoa.
I was gonna say, is that not like
That's my favorite.
exactly? I'm like, I'm sitting, I'm watching Charlie Brown, and it's snowing outside. This is hot cocoa.
hmm
I love that. Okay. Marshmallows on sweet potatoes, iconic or criminal?
Iconic. Yes.
Right? I mean, I love a sweet potato. Like, I don't need the marshmallow, but it's a little fun.
A little fun. It is.
Do you have, I know you have some different sensitivities, but have you ever made marshmallows?
I have never made marshmallows. I did, actually, interesting enough, had gotten some marshmallows that were, the ingredients were, good. And for me, not that food is good or bad, but just
Yeah,
beneficial for my body. And I put it on some hot chocolate and I was like, this is really fun.
yeah, that's awesome.
Like really fun. So yeah. Mhm.
Right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes I think leaning into like, okay, yeah, maybe this is a limiting factor from what might be readily available, but how can I be playful and build my own and learn something at the same time? I love that.
Thank you.
Um, okay, one holiday food hill you're ready to die on.
I think that it's just again like people going into guilt during the holidays. I mean, I don't know if necessarily know if that's a food hill. I mean, to
Yeah,
me, I feel like it's a hill
yeah,
because it's like an up and down, right? So I
absolutely.
think it's just like the guilt and remorse that will come around like a holiday meal.
Yeah, yeah, like
Embracing the joyfulness, the community, the tradition, the things
yeah,
that we
let it
love.
go.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, let it go. Let it go. It's beautiful. More snow and Elsa letting it go. Okay. What's the worst healthy holiday dish you've ever seen someone attempt?
Well, see, I don't think anything's bad or good with food. I mean, I can see like kitchen disasters, like somebody eating something and like burning it, or I always think about I don't know if I'm allowed to name like names of things, but National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with like the turkey that just goes and dries up. So I
Yes.
mean, those could be examples. But I feel like, anybody that brings something to a dinner party or to a holiday is probably important to them.
Yeah.
And it's probably something they really enjoy. So again, just
Yeah.
being mindful of that as well and not labeling that too, because it could be something hurtful to that person. Like, oh my gosh, but this is my Jello dish I've had since I was a child, seriously, and just like looking at it like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And like a little bit of grace and gratitude for maybe I did try to bring something and it didn't go as planned, but it's here. Like, oh, I like to see what you did here. But they tried, right? Really appreciating and that gratitude you were talking about before of just the gratitude of the season. I feel like we have bookended G's, like let go of the guilt and step into the gratitude and allow that to kind of be how you navigate the holidays.
Definitely. Well,
Yeah. I love that. Lee, this has been so amazing. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else you want to talk about? We did talk about the book and kind of all the gems, some gems that are tucked in there. I'd love for you to share more.
my book is called A Nourishing Perspective, and it's on Amazon, Indigo, Barnes and Noble. The hardcover, there will be a Kindle version and audiobook. I'm quite excited. It's just a good way of cultivating a positive relationship with food. And I feel like it's just a realistic approach.
Yeah.
So I hope that
Yes.
everybody can maybe be curious about it and possibly read it.
Yeah.
And it's a great holiday gift for somebody too, to give them a gift to really just learn about nutrition and possibly themselves.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely, right? I personally have really enjoyed it. I think it is a really great foundation, especially for somebody that as a holiday gift, like very approachable, very real, very beautiful, and so many good tips and tricks along the way, and just insightful bits. So I really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed this conversation tremendously, Lee. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you so
awesome.
much. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Great Connect podcast. We will see you next time.